This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Good morning, Lembit Öpik here on Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. A short comment from me today, and hopefully we're going to get a rather significant guest later on today. I want to talk about puberty blockers. I want to talk about it from the point of view of being a parent, but also from a philosophical standpoint. And I'm doing this because all the time since this issue came up, I've been desperately concerned about what it means to our society to give the option of puberty blockers and essentially give the option of messing with your gender to children. The background to this is somewhat murky in my view. If you look at the history of how this whole issue has come up, it's not very clear to me why anyone thinks it's a reasonable thing to do. Let me provide for you the context of what I'm talking about. Our society, Western society in particular, seems to have become obsessed with the idea that people are in the wrong bodies, that they're living a life in the wrong gender. And as time's gone on, we seem to have decided that young people, children, people who haven't even really have the ability to decide to change their gender. Now, there's the debate about gender and sex and so forth, and the courts have been involved in this as well. But fundamentally, my concern is this. For the overwhelming majority of the human race, we're in the right body, we're in the right gender, and we live a balanced and straightforward life. But something strange has happened in our society where this has been brought to the fore, and more than anything, this has become an issue almost of totemic importance to some politicians. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that we have elevated sexual orientation to the status of almost being central to life itself. Now, sex is important, gender is important, sexual orientation matters, but it's not key to life. And when we start asking children at a very young age to make judgments about how they feel about their sexual orientation, I think we're making a mistake. For the overwhelming majority of people, this isn't an issue. Puberty can be confusing. It is for a lot of people, but you get through it. And that's all to do with the normal evolutionary cycle for Homo sapiens, for people. But what we observe now in the mainstream media and also in British politics in particular is an elevation of this subject to this central importance. And I think that's unfair. I think for something like 98.5% of the human race, this isn't an issue, but we've made it an issue. Enter puberty blockers, drugs, which can alter what happens to your body at these crucial times. Enter the debate about the Tavistock Institute, which is an organization which seemed to have a very unhealthy interest in telling people to question their sexual identity. Wrong, 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 in my view. There are a small number of people, as I say, who are transgender. They were probably born in the wrong body, if you like. But that does not apply to the overwhelming majority. And so when I watch, as I have today, a debate about whether there should be an experiment with hundreds of children involving puberty blockers, I think that we're messing with nature in a way which is entirely unhealthy. If you think you're in the wrong body, I believe that there are already systems which will help you resolve that. And for the majority of people in that position, I would say that the world is clarified by sensitive and caring people. But when you start asking individuals who are in no position to have an authoritative view about how they should feel when they're, say, 10, to question their sexual orientation and their sexual identity, then I think we're making a mistake. One of the great things about our society has been that all of these things can be addressed. But with that power comes responsibility. And I think we've got this balance wrong. The reason I think we've got this balance wrong is because sexual politics has been weaponized. There are people who, for ideological reasons, seem to want to mess with this whole issue. I'm not one of them. So whether you're a parent or an interested party, whether you're just somebody who thinks for yourself, let me pose 3 questions for you. And I hope to answer these questions later on today if we get a rather influential speaker to meet with me and to debate these matters. The first question is, what proportion of people do you think genuinely need to reassign themselves to have a happy and balanced life? I put it at a small fraction of 1%. Maybe you have a different view. Secondly, at what age should we be challenging people to make these judgments? I say that there isn't a specific age when this begins, but we should not be assuming that children who haven't even reached puberty are in any position to make this judgment. You may have a different view. I'd like to know that. The third and the final question is, and this is central, this is why I'm discussing it, what are the ethics of doing experiments with hundreds of children to work out what, how, and why puberty blockers work and when they should be used? I don't think that it's safe to have a wholesale experiment like this. And I think that to some extent it undoes the objections which the Tavistock Institute caused many of us to raise, and people like Amy Gallagher, very powerful campaigner, to campaign on. Let nature do its job. On the whole, it does it right. Let those who are not happy with what nature has given them identify that, and we should give them sensitive and empathic guidance. But let's not put this forefront and center for all children, because most of them don't need this. I worry very much that we play creator too often and parent too rarely. I don't want my children, who are 8 and 5, to have to even consider these questions, because nature will answer them in the normal run of events. I like to think of myself as a reasonably progressive person, but I don't think that our society is going about this the right way. Something like 12% of the Labour politicians in Parliament consider themselves to be not straight. That's out of all proportion to the general public. And there are all kinds of questions we could ask about why so many politicians in the party of government have chosen to identify as gay, lesbian, and so forth. But they have a responsibility to recognize the balance in our society. And I just don't believe that 1 in 8 people in our society is confused about their sexual orientation or gender. My appeal, therefore, and I'll close on this, to our politicians is, whatever your personal views about your identity, recognize that 98.5% of people don't have those concerns and those issues. For the overwhelming majority of us, sex and gender are important, but they don't define life itself. I hope that we can have a grown-up debate about this. I hope that we can talk respectfully and without causing mutual offense. And more than anything, I hope that we do not rob children of their childhood by asking them to make decisions which really belong in the world of adulthood. Thanks for listening. And as I say, I'm hoping to have a contributor later on today to discuss these issues. And do please have your say as well in the chat. I'm Lembit Öpik. This is Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.